Hi everyone, we're going to be taking a look today at the treble clef, the lines, the spaces, and how to figure out what notes go where. Now for some of you this might be brand new, for some of you it might be review, but in either case it'll be a good refresher. So the very first thing we have to make sure we know is our musical alphabet. Okay, there's an alphabet in music just like there is in reading and writing, but our musical alphabet is a little bit different. In fact, there are two really important differences. The first one is that the musical alphabet only has 7 letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. That's it. But the other big one is that our musical alphabet can still go forever in either direction. It can go forward and backwards. So how do you do that with only 7 letters? Well, once you get to the end of your alphabet, it just starts over. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and it can go forever in that direction. But it can also go backwards. So if we're going up higher in our notes, our letters would get higher, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But if we were going lower in our notes, we'd actually be going backwards in our alphabet, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. Coincidentally, that's how those letters line up on a piano keyboard as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our music staff and see how these fit together. So on our music staff, which we'll see here in just a second, the clef is what tells us what letters go where. And in our case, we're going to be looking at the treble clef. And the treble clef is that loopy, swoopy looking thing. And the loop always goes around the letter G. And if we know where any letter is, like G, we can figure out where the rest of them are. So let's put our staff up here. Let's put our treble clef up here and take a look at that loop right in the middle. It always goes around the G line. And if we know that that one is G, we can figure out where the rest of the letters go as well. So a question for you. If we know where all of the letters go for the lines and spaces, what notes would go just above and just below the staff? So let's get our staff and clef back up here, and let's even put our letters back up here. We can still see that the G is on that second line from the bottom, which is where the loop goes around. But what notes would go just below the E and just above the F? Well, let's think about that. Let's start with the one on the top. That's the easy one. A, B, C, D, E, F. What's the next letter? Oh, it's going to be G. The one on the bottom is pretty easy to figure out as well once you remember you're going backwards in your alphabet because we're going lower. So G, F, E. What letter comes just before E? Oh, that's right, D. So we could actually keep our notes going forever in either direction if we wanted to as well. Now, there is an easier way to maybe remember this. You want to remember your musical alphabet, but you could also just use what's called a mnemonic device, which is just a fancy way of saying you're going to come up with a saying to remember it. So for the lines, just the lines, if you remember, every good boy does fine, you'll remember that the lines for treble clef are E, G, B, D, and F. And for the spaces, it's even easier because it's just F, A, C, E. Every good boy does fine for the lines, and F-A-C-E, face on the space. Easy to remember. So let's practice. You're going to see some notes, and you want to see if you can figure out if it is a line or a space note. Remember, lines, every good boy does fine. Spaces, F-A-C-E. Using that word trick, figure out what the letter is before it's shown to you. And for this part, there's going to be a little helper up in the corner, just in case you need it. So, let's go ahead and put our helper on the screen, and we can see that. Again, the lines, E, G, B, D, F, every good boy does fine, and the spaces, F-A-C-E. Let's put some notes up here, and let's see. Can we figure out the first one? Let's talk it through. Is it a line or a space note? Well, that looks like it's on a line. So if it's a line, I'm thinking every good boy does fine. And that second word, every good, G. So that must be the note G. What about this second note here? First line or a space note. Space is correct. And we know for spaces, we're thinking face, F-A-C-E. And if I count up those spaces, F-A-C is the correct one. How about this one here? Can you figure it out on your own? If you said B, you are correct. How about the next one? Every good boy does fine, F. This one here is a space note. It's the bottom, so it's easy. It's another F. Just next to that, it's a bottom line, so it's an easy one. Every, E. Another line note. Every good boy does, D. Now this should be an easy one, both because it's a bottom space, and we had this one already. So we should remember it is F. Now what about this last one? This is a little bit of a trick here because it's not actually on any of our lines or spaces. It's just above. So now you have to think back to your musical alphabet. Well, we know the top line is F. Every good boy does fine. And this note is even higher than F, but it's only one higher. So what's just past F in the alphabet? A, B, C, D, E, F. G is the correct answer. So, some things to remember. The musical alphabet is just A to G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It can go forever forwards and backwards. It just starts over. For the treble clef, the loop is always around the G line. Every good boy does fine on the line, and F-A-C-E, face on the space. Now, if you want to practice this a little bit more on your own, there's a lot of ways you can do this. If you just go to a website here, musictheory.net, there's a very good exercise there, but it can get a little bit complicated. The website itself has a lot of things to do other than just note practice. So be careful on that one. But if you really just search for treble clef games, you'll find a lot of them out there. And you might like some of them, but not like others, and that's fine. Don't be afraid to search and see what you like. Well, I hope this was helpful for you on the treble clef. Don't be afraid to look for more information on your own. Good luck in all of your treble clef adventures.